So, how does domestic violence and intimate partner abuse manifest in the workplace? You may be only seeing, as a manager, I like to think kind of the tip of the iceberg because you're around your employee, you know their baseline, you kind of see the surface changes that might be going on. A 2018 national survey on domestic violence survivors found that 83% of respondents reported that their abusive partner disrupted their ability to work. 70% said they were not able to have a job when they wanted or needed one, and 53% said they lost a job because of the abuse. So, what you may be seeing on that tip of the iceberg, changes in mood. Are they appearing more anxious, more depressed? Are they preoccupied on their phone, checking their phone, or feeling like they have to respond immediately to texts, want to see what's going on at home? Is there presenteeism? Are they at work, but they're not really present? They seem preoccupied and distracted in general, or absenteeism, of course. Are they missing work? Are they late for work? Are they more withdrawn? And that's not their usual presentation. They're kind of not as connected to their coworkers as normal. And there could also be no indicators, which is really hard to sit with. Work can often be the one place that they're getting peace, that they're getting an escape, where they feel good because they take pride in their work and they get to focus on that good thing. So they may be really keeping that to themselves. What could be going on under the surface? They're getting constant calls and text messages, demands to respond immediately. If they're not responding immediately, who are you talking to? Are you having an affair? I bet you're talking to that new coworker of yours. Threats to show up at their work, which is not common, but again, can happen. Um, Threats to get them fired and to call their manager. And I would often hear from survivors that they're getting ready for work and their abusive partner starts a fight right before going to work. Very purposeful, so they're kind of sabotaging, their job and impacting them being late. Just spoke to an employee who shared her husband was keeping her up at night and depriving her of sleep because they were fighting and it was going on, and she had barely gotten sleep for 2 days before going to work again. So these are very purposeful tactics that, of course, is going to impact how someone's showing up, right? Next slide, please. There are many reasons that I really want to highlight again as to why an employee experiencing all this might not choose to report or seek help. Safety concerns, again, with their partner, is paramount. They, also might be depending on their identity or their partners. They may be afraid to be outed for fears about police involvement. Usually, when someone discloses, can be very anxiety provoking, and people may want to jump in and step in and take over and jump to what they think the partner needs for safety. But again, may not be what's actually safe. Impacts of trauma, someone feeling stuck, like you mentioned, feeling paralyzed, and it makes it hard to go into action mode. Um, Fear of judgment and stigma. There's so much, again, that stigma we talked about. Why are you staying? Why don't you just leave? And that is often the first response people get when they disclose. Concerns about colleagues finding out, others that don't need to know about this, finding out, worried about losing credibility as an employee, fear, worst case scenario, fear of losing their job, and maybe they're just unaware that there's even resources available that they could be connected to. In general, keeping the abuse hidden is a huge part of someone who's often coping and surviving. Think about the biggest secret you have in your life. And if that came out of it, how would that feel for you? And again, I've sadly seen situations where managers and coworkers get overly involved, and it does cause a survivor to withdraw and not want to seek out support again. This kind of missed opportunity there. Next slide, please. Survivors ultimately are more likely to disclose what's going on if they know that privacy is going to be respected, as it should be with any personal issue that's being disclosed at work. If someone is coming to you and telling you they're depressed, of course you're not going to share that with anyone. And the same goes for this issue, even though it is understandably very anxiety provoking and stressful to hear this is going on. The only folks that should be involved are on a need-to-know basis. Making somebody feel safe to disclose also makes the workplace safer. It's the safest practice because what we share could somehow unintentionally make somebody more unsafe, right? And we can lose that connection to the survivor if they feel they're not being respected with their privacy. So to get us thinking a little bit more about what it's like for employees, we're going to look at a scenario next. Next slide, please. So Linda, a PD nurse, has worked in your department for 2.5 years. She's been fairly reliable, well-liked, employee who sometimes comes to work late, but often get along with the other staff and patients. Lately, though, she doesn't appear to be herself. As time goes on, you notice she's pulling away from her coworkers. She's spending a lot of time by herself. You know that Linda recently had a messy breakup with James, the father of her 2-year-old son. And one day Linda comes to work 2 hours late, and you notice she looks like she's been crying. This is the second time in 2 weeks Linda's been late. You ask her to step in the back to talk to you, and you close the door and ask Linda why she's coming in late. She apologizes, says she had car trouble. You remind her that she should call you if she's running late. Give her a second warning, mention that she seems upset, and ask if you can help with anything. She thanks you for your help and says, no, thank you. Next slide, please. So we've got a polling question again here. What would you do next? A, say you understand, tell her you're there to listen. If she wants to talk, you tell her she's a good worker. You don't want the lateness to become an ongoing problem. And inform her that the EAP is another confidential resource she can contact for support. B, say you understand, but you need to know if something's going on that will affect her ability to get the job done. Ask, is everything okay at home? C, say you understand, but tell her she can go to the EAP to talk to someone if she doesn't feel comfortable talking to you. Give folks a minute to take your best guess here with a poll. All right, I think we can close that up. Okay, we've got 88% said A, 6% said B or C. Fantastic. Next slide, please. A is the correct answer. So we can't force an employee to reveal private and potentially sensitive, painful information, right? She hasn't disclosed anything to you yet. Hopefully the scenario showed you kind of a lot of warning signs though there. That could be, have your radars up. And it's important to let her know that you're there and you can help. You're planting a seed. This is often a process for folks. And again, they need to know that they're going to be safe and their privacy is going to be respected. So reinforcing that message is really important, that she can come to you and letting her know about the EAP. You can't force her to come to the EAP, right? But letting her know about us as a resource, that we support folks navigating relationship issues. We are completely confidential. We thoroughly assess for domestic violence. And in a situation like this, it would be extremely for us ahead of time, whether Linda knows you're calling or not, but giving us a heads up that you referred her, that she might connect, because we can get that background information from you that adds to our assessment to really explore what's going on and if there are safety concerns with her. So that's really helpful for us to get that heads up about the referral. Next slide, please. So what if someone doesn't disclose, or you're worried, again, similar to this situation, if they're experiencing abuse, having some kind of conversation, I'm sorry, what if someone does disclose, approaching somebody and having this conversation, I think for most feels very uncomfortable. It can feel awkward. There can be a lot of anxiety about having a conversation. First, I again want to remind you, EAP is here to talk it through. We will help you think of a script, make a plan, and really help you frame that conversation. We don't want managers to be worrying alone and figuring out how to navigate these situations. So call us if possible to talk to us ahead of time. Next slide, please. If someone does disclose unexpectedly, though, remember, I can't highlight this enough. A supportive response makes a huge difference. Employees have told me again and again that support and validation and being believed empowers survivors 9 times out of 10 to take action and support moving forward, as opposed to if they feel judged, not believed, there isn't that compassion, it can shut them down and might make them much more hesitant to seek support again. Also, you aren't there to fix it. You are their manager. It's not your job to be an expert or to provide counseling about anything to them. It's actually important for you to maintain that boundary, that you are their manager, you're compassionate, you're supportive, and there are resources that they can be connected to that are more appropriate for them to confidentially be able to talk more about what's going on. And I've had many survivors say they deeply appreciated feeling believed and supported, not judged, with that first disclosure to someone, even if they didn't say so. Again, you're really interpreting in a positive way. Next slide, please. So some more tips about what to do, what not to do, what to do. It's, again, really important for folks to feel in control and empowered. They're experiencing the opposite in their relationship. And for someone to heal from an abusive relationship, we need to model the opposite. That we believe they have wisdom about their safety and what they need, rather than taking them and telling them what to do. So listening, being supportive and providing options. What do they need and what is in your capacity to offer as a manager? Could they change schedules? Could they work a different shift? Could they work at a different location? Could they work remotely? What's going to be safer and helpful? Would they like security to be involved? Again, giving them that choice. Do they want an escort to their car? Do they want to give a copy of a restraining order to security, or have security look up anything about their abusive partner? Is a performance improvement plan possible? Again, a compassionate way to acknowledge, I want to support you and want to be connected to these resources. And I really hope that this can improve and we can work together on the plan to improve your performance if it's been impacted. Sometimes people need a leave of absence to take that time to seek support and treatment so that they can improve their performance. But again, respecting privacy of that person as you would with any other personal issue. And maybe this also involves consult again with the EAP, with HR, need to know folks that are involved, but not to do, don't advise. You don't know their situation, you don't know what is best for their safety. I've had people say, you've got to get a restraining order. A restraining order is a piece of paper. And ultimately there needs to be a sophisticated safety plan going on with that. And there needs to be an assessment around whether that's actually going to be effective and something that an abusive partner follows, or whether that could escalate the situation. So they know that, they know their partner better than any of us. Getting overly involved can make things more unsafe for them and for the workplace. And ignoring confidentiality. Again, I think I've highlighted that. We want to keep the survivor involved in the decision-making process about options. We certainly don't want to ignore workplace safety. If somebody is saying my partner is threatening to come to work today, most of the time, abusive folks are focused on coming and harassing their partner, not the whole workplace, not threatening and being violent towards the workplace, but to be coming and intimidating and disrupting their partner. But certainly a consult with security is always an option. We're so lucky to have fantastic security across our system. Next slide, please. I also want to mention a resource related to leaves. Certainly, sometimes folks need to take an FML leave if the abuse is affecting their mental health and they're needing support. And that's certainly something we assess with employees that come to the EAP, what might be the best kind of leave if that's what they're wanting to do. But there is a fairly recent mass employment leave for domestic violence survivors. As far as I know, half of all the states in the US now have some sort of leave, including New Hampshire. For Massachusetts, it can be used for an employee or their family member that's been a victim of domestic violence, sexual assault, kidnapping. We see employment leave for DV is, in addition, yes, it's a separate leave from FMLA. It allows for up to 15 days of job protected leave, paid or unpaid, depending on whether someone has PTO in their bank. So it is very different than FMLA. It does not go through the leave office. It's kept within the department. The manager or HR business partner can initiate this, and they can certainly consult with EAP around that. Again, keep it as confidential as possible. And it's used to address housing, legal, medical, mental health needs. anything related to the domestic violence. Documentation is kept as confidential as possible. And, not always required, but sometimes asked for. And, really encourage you to check your entity's policy and again, consult with us with any questions, but this could be used, separately. Or again, we might assess this person really is struggling and it makes more sense to do FMLA where they can get short-term disability if they've got no PTO and they need more than 15 days. Next slide. I'm just checking the questions again here. Good to know. Yes, absolutely. So I want to just highlight again, in summary, your balance as a manager is a delicate balance. You see your employees, you know them better than perhaps most. Being observant, knowing your role, and engaging in compassionate boundaries and support are the key points to highlight. So again, you're in a unique position to notice if their day-to-day performance is changing, their appearance, their attendance, or their red flags that we've talked about that you're noticing, while also knowing your role as the manager. You must be able to identify and address performance issues. You're not expected to assess if domestic violence is going on, even if you are seeing those warning signs or provide counseling to staff. You need to be their manager, not their counselor. And we've said many times about not getting overly involved. This could actually make things more unsafe. Best to refer for help, consult with EAP, not hold this alone. So a plan and options can be shared with the employee, and having those compassionate boundaries. It's a balance of showing care while also saying, I'm concerned about you and I want to make sure you know there's resources and support within our system and get them referred to the right support. Next slide, please. So this quote, I think, says it all. And just want to highlight after getting, this is from a survivor, getting help from my supervisor. I worked so hard. I think I gave back as much as I could to her. It gave me a sense of commitment to the work because they were there for me through the rough stuff. If you stick it out, when a loyal employee, you get in the end. I just think that's a really powerful and positive comment when things go well, how it impacts someone. Next slide, please.